There's something pretty big that's happening that's actually in our region. Now the thing is, we really don't have a control over the situation, but what we should be doing is preparing to deal with the repercussions of the situation. Now let's go into a little bit more detail of what I'm actually talking about, but it's something that I think we're missing. And let's talk about the dangers and the severity that it does not just affect our southeastern part of the United States, it affects the whole world. Let's jump into it. Today's video starts right now.
With you and I, the future is bright.
Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so much for being here today. Let us know what you think about this daily content. You know, we've tried this daily content where we're doing shorter videos, quick information, not as much long form going in a few videos a week. So let me know, you like the short daily videos, or do you like the long form a few times a week? So give me your ideas. Now, what I'm talking about today is very, very important, and it's very vital to our region, however it affects every one of you. Now, there's two things that needs to be brought to your attention. Since we're having this major drought, now we're in what we call an exceptional drought here in South Mississippi. Now, it doesn't look like it because these blueberry bushes behind me are absolutely gorgeous, and there is a blueberry shortage, by the way, but these are beautiful, and there's a lot of things that are still beautiful in our area because we do have a humid climate. However, because we're in this drought, there's two major things happening. One is pines are dying. Now, we are a pine capital of America, I know, but probably of the world. We produce a lot of pine here in Mississippi. We grow a lot of pine, and we're able to get that lumber out to wherever it needs to go. Well, what's happening now is people are either having to prematurely cut their timber, or there's bugs getting in it because of the drought, or they're literally doing what they call brown topping. They're dying. And we're seeing that. Now, if you've watched any of our videos with the cypresses and the evergreens, such as the pines that you see behind me in a lot of these videos, it's not because it's fall foliage. They're evergreens. They shouldn't be turning colors. It's because they're dying. We're in a crazy drought, which will affect lumber prices and also the mills and jobs. Now, that's not the concern with this video, but I want to bring that to your attention. That's the kind of droughts we're having, is that we're seeing fires in our areas that we've never saw, and we're seeing pine problems and causing lumber issues across our area, and it will affect everyone because we provide a lot of lumber, especially when we talk about 2x4s and typical pine building for homes. That's one thing. But the biggest player is, have you seen any footage on the river? The Mississippi River looks terrible. There's areas of the Mississippi River, even in our area, which is the very biggest area of the Mississippi River, is down in the Mississippi Valley and going into Louisiana, and there is places that is showing so much sandbars that I've never seen my whole 36 years of existence. It's unbelievable at the kind of problems we're having with the Mississippi River. Now let's go into the statistics and why it affects you. One reason, the low Mississippi water levels could disrupt grain harvest again, posing a threat to all farmers and the grain industry. Now, we're already having grain industry, so we've talked about that for years, dealing with the Ukraine war, dealing with the 2020 and all the mess that went along with it. We had problems with wheat and flour and grains, corn, things like that. So we were seeing already issues, and we were seeing the aging farmer. We've talked about that. But it says now we're going to see a bigger threat to the grain industry, with 60% of U.S. grain exported completely through the Mississippi River Valley. It's crucial to find alternative modes of transportation. Now, what does that mean? When we try to find other modes of transportation, that means, well, we got to freight it. We got to put it on trains. Well, have you seen the problems with the trucking industry right now? There's been a lot file for bankruptcy. There's been a lot of problems. There's been a lot of problems trying to find truckers. And like the farmer, they're aging. So we're seeing a problem with shortages there. So if 60% of the grain that we typically export, that pays our farmers, that pays all the people to work, is not able to be exported, or it's having more expense to be exported, what do you think that's going to do for your food and your grain cost? It's going to go up. What does grain do? Not only feed us, it feeds our animals. That means livestock will go up, beef will go up. So we're seeing a problem with barges not being able to get downriver. They're not being able to get from the higher ports in the corn areas and the grain areas, maybe in the North Mississippi River areas, in those states, to come down here to get out to the Gulf of Mexico. The Ohio River was running low in levels also in October. Drought across the central and U.S. and Midwest have left water levels low on not only the Mississippi, but the ones that contribute to the river, the Ohio River. At Cairo, Illinois, the Ohio River is at its lowest water stage. Through September 26, nearly 55% of the Midwest was gripped with a drought, with almost 66% of the South very dry. According to the U.S. Drought Monitor, more than 99% of Louisiana was in drought. Severe drought has caused water levels in the Mississippi River to drop so low that the ships have been running aground in one of the biggest rivers in the world. To keep commerce flowing, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is now using dredge ships to push out silt in the river near Vicksburg, Mississippi. Now, we went through Vicksburg the other day when we went to Colorado. Vicksburg's, it's about 2 hours from us. But when we crossed the bridge, I was blown away at how much sandbar there was there. Also, if you ever have crossed over, the bridge is forever long, because what it does is there's a lot of water that flows in, and then there's little basins all around there. I mean, just tons of open land that basically, once the river floods, it goes into those lands so it won't cause any catastrophic damage. None of that was full. It was just the driest I've ever seen it. So when we start seeing the sandbar and the river's not even up to levels to the edges, not counting the basin, that's a big deal for farmers, especially as they're trying to get their grain out to wherever it needs to go. Remember, it is a commodity and it is something that will perish. So if they're looking for that grain to be sold on the open market, and now they're having to truck it in different places because they can't get it downriver, it's just an implication that I don't think we're ready to face, because in America, we need those things to be done as best and frugal as possible, so it allows our grocery bills to be less, it allows our food system to be secure and not be broken. Here's where it gets real serious, and we talked about this, if you remember, about 2 or 3 months ago. But it says it has been so low that it has caused saltwater intrusion back upriver from the Gulf into places like New Orleans. So New Orleans is, of course, a big city. Not only is that a problem for freshwater wildlife, of course, things it's killing, such as freshwater fish, is getting saltwater contamination, so it's causing issues for some of those things to live, but it's impacting the wells, the drinking water, the way that places like New Orleans lives off the fresh water and how it takes in water from the Mississippi. Well, if it's not able to take in that water anymore, that's going to cause a problem with drinking water and wells in that area. Now, I have a well, and I'm not close enough to the river, not close enough to the coast, that it plays into me right now. But what we're seeing because of this issue is you're seeing hundreds of thousands and even millions of people affected to where water may be an issue. Now, if water's an issue, which is the main source of life, other than, spiritually talking, our physical life, we need water. What are we going to do? Have you been storing up water like we talked about? Have you been finding ways to purify water that you have? Have you found other creeks, other accessibilities? So when we see these kind of things happen, I never would have thought we'd had a drought here. I've never seen brown top pines. I've never seen cypresses and evergreens dying. I've never seen the river as low as it is. But sometimes we have to realize that things happen. That's why we need to prepare like we do, because we're not used to seeing wildfires. There was a monster fire over from us, and it was in a pine thicket, burned a lot of acreage just a few days ago, right down the road from our town, right here in 5-10 miles from me. But why is that a big deal? Because we've never seen that before. Our people don't know how to face that. That's kind of like saying a winter blizzard would blow here. We're not used to it. We don't know what to do with it. It's kind of like when we went to Colorado, they don't deal with 110 degree days like we may deal with. So you see, there's different things that we may not be used to seeing that we have to prepare for. So when we talk about preparing, we talk about understanding that there could be problems that we have not foreseen. Mississippi River, I don't think anyone has seen the river that low. It's like record low numbers. It's not counting all the rivers that's contributing. That's not counting all the lands that it typically would be fertile because of the river going wider and kind of filling the lands up. It's a big deal. Now, here's another thing to just think about. If you remember, farmers, I'm against conventional fertilizers and herbicides, but remember, if that farmland is getting the same chemicals that it always gotten to grow the food and modify it, which again I'm against, and it's going into the river basin like it always does, and there's less water, don't you think that could cause some more issues too for fresh water, because there's less dilution of the fertilization coming into the river that's causing the dead zone probably in the Gulf? It may even get worse. That's things we don't think about. Could that hurt our shrimping? Could that hurt our fishing? Could that hurt our wildlife and fisheries areas that we're trying to keep safe? Very well could. So the implications are real. Now, do I blame this on climate? No, I just blame it on, it's just normal life. We go through cycles. But as a prepper, we have to be ready as much as possible for these kind of things. Every water level gauge in a nearly 400-mile stretch of the Mississippi from the Ohio River to Jackson, our capital, or basically the Vicksburg area, is at or below the lowest level threshold, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The same stretch of the river experienced record low water levels even last year in October, so this is year over year, which is going to cause more critical harvest. So have you put up food? Have you done as much as you can? When you see about grain and corn shortages, when you hear about the problems that farmers are going to face, these are unbelievable problems, and they're going to cause problems for you because you're either going to buy the food, or the food that you're eating, like the meat source, the livestock, is going to experience higher pricing because they're having to buy that for grain to feed the animals. So is this causing a problem for you? Maybe not. Not yet anyway. But remember, we live in such a global style food system, and a not a regional, not a community style food system, which we should be, where it wouldn't affect us, where we could help each other. But the problem is we rely so much on everyone else to provide our own food, our own water, and to make sure we have safe, healthy drinking water. That's of course something that the government should make sure that we have. But what are you doing to help yourself? What are you doing? Are you buying life straws? Are you buying Berkey filters? Are you buying Sawyer filters? Are you finding little creeks and crevices and places that you can go? Do you have a well that may need to be checked because it's at record low levels and it could be causing major issues and there's silt in the pipe? Is there other ways that you can be redundant and find a lake or stream that you can get to if something bad happens? If you live in these areas, are you stocking up bottled water? Are you buying cases of water? Are you buying drums? I have two 55-gallon drums that I have devoted to just water. That's not counting all the stackable waters. That's not counting all the survival waters. It's just random 2 55-gallon drums that just sit there with water in them for no reason other than if everything else fails and I drink all the other water and our rainwater catchment is not catching water because we're in a drought, we have 110 gallons that are not part of the typical stockpile that we can say this is the emergency ration. This is all we got compared to our rivers, creeks, and ponds that we have here on our farm. So we have to think past, well, we're not used to wildfires, so we don't have to worry about that. We're not used to water issues because we don't have to worry about that. We're not used to snow because we don't have to worry about that. We're not used to grid down scenarios because we're not used to that. You better get used to it because we're in that time where we may see the ebb and flow of our climate. Not because we're causing the problems, it's because the world changes and we better be ready for it. Have you thought of water? Have you thought of food? Have you put some freeze-dried foods up? Have you put some water containments up? Have you done as much as you can to take care of your family? Now, we're going to be talking about other shortages in the coming days because there are some major shortages that will affect you and your family. And this is just the one way. This is things we can't help. These others that we're going to be talking about, there's a lot that we can do, and it's time for us to do it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this. Have you heard about the river being low? Also, have you checked your reservoirs? I heard things about the Colorado River, Lake Mead, some of those areas, those reservoirs that are so vital for your fresh water. Do your research. You'd be surprised that our fresh water is struggling. Under 3% of our water consumption overall is fresh water. All the rest is salt water. So we need to make sure that we are doing all we can to prepare to have our water safe. And that's a big deal. Guys, thank you for watching. God bless.